There's a reason why people said don't put all your eggs in one basket. And in one basket, in terms of hair business, I would actually say you should not put all your trust in one supplier. Most of us get hair from different places around the world, and you should also know, and you're also aware that you are not the only customer there is, or you're not the only customer that they are attending to. It is not about distrust, it is about risk management, because when your business starts to grow, your supplier or your vendor don't automatically grow with you. Because when the demand is more in your own side and you have just one vendor, be mindful that you're not actually the only vendor that there is. So there are certain things that you need to think about actually when choosing vendors, because you also need to put your own business in mind. Because once there is more demand in your own side, there's a tendency that maybe if a supplier has like 10 customers and there are much demands with those 10 customers, who do you think that they're going to supply the hairs to? They will not actually supply the hair to one person. They'll have to divide it, which makes it less demand for you, because what your customers want is actually enough to actually fit all of them. Do you get that now? So if you're not able to meet up to all your clients because of you have one vendor, it's going to be a risk on your side, because you are growing, but your supplier is not growing. And also, you're not the only customer that they have. These suppliers can have material limits, production limits, staff limits, and rush seasons can also affect everybody at once. We all can attest to how seasonal period can be here in Nigeria. Not more talk more of there, where we are actually importing most things from there. So imagine when everybody's making demands for seasonal period, what do you think is going to be left for you? Do you get that? So if you have only just one supplier, and let me say, but like 10 people have already ordered prior to the seasonal period, you don't have much left for you to attend to your customers. What happens when orders pile up when you have no backup? Delay to meet your customers. You start apologizing instead of selling, because at that time orders are piling up, but you don't have hairs to give to your customers. What are you going to do then? You start looking for who you can borrow from, or you start going to other markets that you're not even sure of the quality that they have. But by the time you are able to check for suppliers, test out their goods, you'll be able to know what your customers can actually get at that point in time. Because by the time you're limited in this way, you can just go and buy hair from another place that you're not sure of, or maybe you just feel like, okay, it's a regular market, and then your customers get it and they don't like it. What will you tell your customers at that moment? You wouldn't say, oh, this is not my usual supplier. You can't say that, because that's not even professional. So you get that. So one supplier, one or two supplier is actually like at high risk for you, especially as a hair vendor. One or two supplier is at high risk for you, especially as a hair vendor. Because when your business is growing, it's expected that you keep a lot of them in place in case orders come in, bulk orders come in. You know what to give this particular supplier, you know what to give this particular supplier. At that time, they are not overwhelming your supplier. They'll be able to produce their goods in the way they are supposed to produce it, not because of their rushing it, but because that is what they are good at. To avoid this kind of period, you need to start sourcing for hair suppliers. Hair vendors, hair suppliers need to start sourcing it at much, because it's going to take so much time and it's going to take you so much money or cost you a lot of money, but it is worth it in the long run. Because if you check it, it is better to risk your money than to risk a customer's money too. So you see that. So when you know that you're growing in your business, or when you know that your business is getting to a point whereby the demand is now more, what you need to do is to start sourcing for multiple suppliers. You say, okay, supplier A, supplier B, supplier C, supplier D. You find what is most common amongst them. Of these each suppliers, you find what they are really, really good at. You say, okay, if supplier A is good at bouncy, you keep them one side. If supplier B is good at pixie curls, you keep them one side. If supplier C is good at bone straight, you keep them one side. If supplier D is good at bouncy, you keep them one side. If supplier E is good at deep wave, you keep them one side. That is how you keep them. So that when the demand comes, you know who to meet. If supplier A is good at bouncy and bone straight, you can also keep it. You just have to find out what is their best selling product, or what are they really, really good at. That is the first thing you need to find out when sourcing suppliers. You don't just get suppliers randomly. You need to find out what is their best product, what they are really, really good at in them, because most suppliers have one thing that they are known for. Maybe the supplier, they are known for their bouncy, that their bouncy is really, really good. Why some is their bouncy and their bone straight and their deep wave. Why some is their bouncy and their bone straight and their deep wave. Do you get? So you just need to find what's common between most. You need to find what's most common between these people, and then keep them where they belong. And the next thing you also need to think about is their capacity. What time can they use to deliver a certain amount of product? Because sometimes you cannot predict, especially if you're an upcoming vendor, you cannot predict. Me, myself, I can't predict. I just have it in mind that, okay, this person is good at this, or you just need to just keep monitoring them. Do you get? You just need to keep monitoring them. So, okay, this person is really good at this, or these people have more reviews on this. Just ask them. They can even tell you. Some of them can just be very truthful about it. They'll tell you that, okay, this is what they're known for. And then you just keep them as, okay. Then, if you have the money to test them out, you actually test them out to confirm, okay, that they're really good at this. Then you now tell yourself, okay, I'll be buying bouncy from here. if you don't have money to test other textures, yeah, just make sure that okay, that thing that you feel like they're really good at, you test it first to confirm. Then you confirm it, and then okay, you buy this. When you have more money again, you test other of their textures and see if it's really good, as that one. So people can be good at 3 to 4 hair textures, which is actually fine. But for overwhelming seasons, like seasonal period, you don't need to rely on them on all textures, because you just need to know that sometimes your capacity might be less to compare with the demand, which I've stated in my previous video, how demand can actually reduce a factory or a supplier or a vendor's capacity, because sometimes demand can actually be more than what they can handle. Do you get? And the production limit too, and the staff's limit that they have. So that is also what you need to put to consideration, and also the time at which they can be able to deliver a certain product. So if you know that okay, it is getting to December, if you have the money, you can actually start booking from October. That is what most big vendors actually do. They book from September, October. Before December, their goods has already arrived, and you see them selling out. You'll be asking yourself how. But you don't know that all these things are preparations that have already been done before the season came. That's why you see some people during their sales time. That is when vendors, or that is when customers starts to drag them, because people start dragging once it's ending of December and January. During that sales period, they'll be like, I got this hair on their sales, and this is what I got. I don't like it. It's not this, because at that time is the rush hour for both the suppliers and the vendors. Those times are rush hour, so that time they might not really make goods at their best capability and their best capacity. So you get that time when every vendor is on their neck. Please, when are you sending my goods? Please, when are you sending my goods? Them too be trying to finish up, because they're also trying to meet up with time with other people's own too. So that is when they might actually not really do their best job at that time. So you need to know a factory's capacity before you put them in a certain list. If you know that okay, this is the amount that they can handle, then you make sure that that is the amount that you can give them. You cannot give them more than that. And then you go ahead also to start finding bigger factories that can actually deliver what you want. Divide orders, not stress. When you actually get up to 10, 15 or 20 suppliers that you can handle, or that you can actually track, and when so much order coming, you can easily divide orders. You can say, okay, this particular factory is going to handle 20 orders, this particular factory is going to handle 20 orders, this particular factory is going to handle 20 orders, 20. By the time you divide 20 amongst 5 people, you get that now. Before you know it, maybe one has already come in. That time you're already processing the goods, and then you're sending it out. At that time, you can actually deliver faster, because if you're only dependent on 2, and then you give them 100 or 2 to 100 pieces to produce, before they get to you, it might actually be more than 2 to 3 months time, because they have to actually take their time, or 2 months time. They have to take their time. But by the time you divide it, maybe 20. Before you know it, it's coming in, you're selling out, it's coming in, you're selling out, it's coming in, you're selling out. Before they are sending this one, you're placing another order with them. Before they're sending this one, you're placing another order with them. Before you know it, your things will be very swift, very easy, and people will be wondering how you're doing it. Some of the reasons why some clients are actually patronizing some vendors is actually because of how fast that they can deliver. Yes, their quality might actually matter, but also it can be how fast that they can deliver, which is why as a small business owner, you also need to start preparing yourself about those times, because now currently for me, I'm still doing pre-order because I don't have the funds to actually like buy goods, and I don't have the audience yet. So it's like a lot of work on my side at this point, as at this level that I am, because I'm in the survivor stage. But when I get to the point where I know that I have a lot of audience, then I know how to utilize all my knowledge altogether, because I'm teaching you. This is also the act that I've already done my research and seen that okay, this is how I'm going to deliver this is how I'm going to deliver it. So at this point now, it's not about me panicking if it is going to come or not. When it's coming, I already started knowing the structure or the strategy I'm going to put in place. And also, okay, let's just use this seasonal period now, for example, because now I think now most factories in Vietnam and China are actually on break. So you see this period now, somebody like me now, doing pre-order. If somebody orders products now that most factories are actually on break, what do? I don't have any other option, because what, my factory is on break. But if I have like a lot of factories that I've kept, and I've started like making inquiries, asking them, oh, are you going on a break? Are you also going on the holiday? There are some factories that will tell you that they're not going. It's not everybody that are really that tired, because if everybody closed down, it means that business is not going to be easy for anybody here. So there are actually people that will still want to open up for other customers that still need their services. So you get that. If you're lucky enough to actually have like suppliers that will still retain themselves and tell you okay that they're not going on the holiday, they're still available, but they cannot do much orders, then that is fine, because people with the money already know that they're going for this break, and then they will book orders prior to this time, so that when they even go on break, they can still have what to sell to their customers. That is why it is good that you need to have money when you are starting this business, because at some point in your time in this business, you actually need money. If not, business will be harder for you. That is actually the period that I'm facing now. But lucky for me, with this idea that I have now, I am at less or low risk, because what, I have a contact that I can actually rely on in this kind of period. Even though I know that okay, all textures, I might not be available for all textures, but at least the textures that I know that are available, I sell them more in this period. Then when they resume, I go back to the usual business. That is how to be strategic about your business. Not necessarily like if nothing is working for one factory, or if one factory closed down, it means that your business is at high risk. That is not how to do business. You need to structure yourself for days like this. You get that? Dependency is expensive, but flexibility is profitable. The real luxury in business is not money, it's actually peace. When you have the right structures at hand and the right things to put in place, you'll be able to do business very, very peacefully. Not every season you're always panicking. Not every time you're always panicking because you don't have the right structures in place. So do this today and thank me later.